It's preparing. We are now live on YouTube.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Ordinary Council meeting. And we certainly apologise for the technical hiccup and delay, but we're ready to move along now. Firstly, Council acknowledges the traditional owners of these lands, waters and skies, the Wadawurrung people. We acknowledge and respect their continuing connections to their lands, waters, skies, culture, and the contribution they make to the life and spirit of our community. We pay respect to their past and elders present and their emerging leaders, and extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people. Thank you very much. Welcome, and welcome, Councillor Salter. We can see you now. Thank you. Mr. CEO, we have. Do we have any apologies for tonight's meeting?
No, we don't, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks, Mr. CEO. President, can I also acknowledge present a couple of not unfamiliar faces, but in new roles. Welcome, Shannon Maloney is recently appointed our Manager of Community. Welcome, Shannon. And also Stuart Hanson, who is our newly appointed Manager of Infrastructure and Environment. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have anyone have a conflict of interest?
Mayor, I've got
Councillor Hewitt.
thank you. Two conflicts of interest. The first conflict is in relation to item 15.1 in respect of the planning permit report regarding planning application 2021/096, date received the 20th of September 2021 in respect of 33 to 35 Flinders Street in Queenscliff, as I reside in close proximity. I also have a conflict in respect, potential perceived conflict in respect of item 15.3 in respect of the Avenue of Honour, in that I reside in close proximity to that particular project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Any other conflicts of interest, councillors? Councillor Salter.
I need to declare conflict of interest for application number 2021/93, which is a permit that was issued that's listed on page 28 and relates to my residence. Don't have to say anything else.
So that permit was already issued, did you say?
Permit is listed in the agenda.
Listed, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Salter. Any other conflicts, councillors? No. Officers, do we have any conflicts of interest?
No, Mr. Mayor, none that have been reported.
No, thank you very much. Item 4, leave of absence of councillor. We have none. Public question time status. Public question time, 5.1 status. No public questions outstanding. 5.2 public questions. Councillors, we do have one public question tonight, which I will read and answer. The public question is from Megan Ruth. The question reads, my partner and I have bought a home in Queensland with the dream of raising a family in a supportive community that looks out for each other. With this in mind, we've been disappointed by poor community consultation about a planning application that significantly impacts our area. Having spoken to our neighbours, it is clear many are unaware of the proposal, unsure how to access the plans, and don't know how or where to make a submission if they wish. Appreciating council does not answer questions about specific planning application, my broader question is, what does a fair level of consultation look like in our community, considering our age demographic, diverse online capability, and the fact that some homeowners do not live here permanently? Thank you very much, Megan, for your question. The answer, the extent of consultation for planning application is dictated by the Planning and Environment Act. This usually entails letters to adjoining neighbours and a sign on the site. All applications are open for comment, are listed on Council's website. Council was happy to answer questions on specific applications, and if you have concerns about a specific application, officers are more than happy to discuss this with you. Thank you very much, Megan, for your question. Item 6, councillors, confirmation of council minutes. That we have already had them distributed. The recommendation, councillor, is there that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council of the Borough of Queensland held on the 22nd of September 2021 as distributed be confirmed as an accurate record. Could I get someone to move councillor Grout? Seconded, councillor Hewitt. Thank you. All those in favour? That's passed. Thank you very much. Item 7, record of assembly of councillors. There is a list there of all the assemblies that are included at adjunct to item 7. The recommendation that the record of assembly of councillors as presented in adjunct to item 7 be noted. Can I get someone to move that, please? Thank you, councillor Hewitt. Second, councillor Salter. All those in favour? Thank you. Councillor Salter, you're in favour?
Yeah.
Yep, I didn't see that, sorry. Thank you. Item 8, notice of motion. 8.1, notice of motion status update. The recommendation that the notice on motion status update as presented in adjunct 8.1 be noted. Can I get someone to move councillor Hewitt? Thank you. Seconded, councillor Grout. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. 8.2, motion on notice. There are no notices of motion were received. Item 9, petition and joint letters. 9.1, there were no petitions and joint letters received. Councillors, item 10, functions attended. There is a long list there, which is getting longer, and I'd imagine once we come out of having to Zoom all our meetings, I hope that this list will grow even further. So, councillors, the recommendation that the functions attendant report be received. I get someone to move councillor Hewitt. Thank you. Second, councillor Grout. Thank you. Any discussion or any changes we need done there, councillors? No. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you. So moved. Thank you. Item 11, the Chief Executive Officer, 11.1, this Chief Executive Officer report. I'll hand over to our CEO, Mr. Gill. Thank you, Mr. Gill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't really have a lot to say to introduce this, except to take it as read, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have any questions for the CEO? Councillor Grout?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, you mentioned there the meeting with the Bellarine Community Association, and if you could just briefly indicate what the main concerns shared by those associations and the Bellarine are.
Thank you, Councillor Grout, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So the groups, the combined groups, they're representative from all of the towns on the Bellarine. The shared concerns pretty much align with some of the issues that have been raised through the distinctive areas and landscapes project, which is that they want to retain as much as possible the character of the Bellarine, in particular separation between the towns. They've also shared concerns around the impact of growth in towns and how that is impacting on the character of the towns. And they also are keenly aware of the environment and the waterways within the Bellarine, and pretty keen to see greater protections for those, and that's in response, I think, to the level of growth on the Bellarine. So they were also very interested in the meeting that I attended with Martin Cutter around governance, how councils make decisions, how the community can speak with councillors and make their views known. So they were pretty interested in that. And you won't be surprised, we also received a couple of questions about the 13225 matter, and also how we were going to implement the distinctive areas and landscape state planning policy that we're all expecting later this year. So that's the broad outline, but I'd say environment, built form, protection of the character of the Bellarine, and just a deep concern and a deep commitment to the area.
Thanks, Martin. Councillor Kruger, you've got a question for the CEO in regards to his report.
Yes, just regarding the outdoor dining activation, we're saying that we'll need to apply for the funding. Have we? And when would we be expecting a reply if we had sent a application in?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, we're preparing the applications as we this week. So the officers met on Monday to go through the criteria for, in particular, Part A, because we need to complete Part A before we can make an application for Part B. So we're focused on Part A. We have a number of projects. The officers are speaking to the traders and just doing some technical sort of backgrounds, on some of the ideas that are emerging. So we're anticipating, I suspect, within the next week that we'll send that application in, and then we've been told that the turnaround will be very quick, and somewhere between 3 or 4 days apparently. So hopefully they'll stick to that, and we will be, really starting to get some work done towards the middle and late November.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillors, any other questions for the CEO? No, if not, we do have his report there that the recommendation that council receives the CEO report for October 2021. Can I get someone to move that, please? Councillor Hewitt, thank you. Second, Councillor Salter, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Thank you. Item 12, Community Wellbeing, 12.1 G21 AFL Borough towards 2030 strategy. Welcome, Shannon Maloney, our Manager of Community. Welcome again, Shannon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I'll take the report as read, councillors. It is in regards to the G21 AFL Barwon towards 2020 strategy. It was presented to council back in May and opened for public exhibition, which received a number of submissions from the regions, both individuals and clubs across the region, which resulted in some minor wording changes relating to netball development, shared umpire spaces, and comments around the Football Integration Development Association. The G21 Sport and Recreation Pillar provided its endorsement in August, and once each G21 council has endorsed or noted the strategy, it will be presented to the G21 board and Netball Victoria for noting. Tonight there's a recommendation for you with 3 parts to it, and I'll leave it with you, Mr. Mayor, to make your choice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Councillors, the recommendation is before you. Can I get someone to move and second the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Grugow, seconded by Councillor Grout. Thank you. Do we have any questions for Shannon? Councillor Grugow?
I'd like to make a question, but a comment about how important this is, like sport and community involvement, especially post-COVID. So for the last 2 years, the involvement on the leagues for both the boys and girls and both senior and junior has been highly affected. I hope that we've got with this strategy, we can ensure that it's the competition is strong and viable and not destroyed by the current COVID pandemic.
Thank you, Councillor Grugow. Councillors, any other questions or comments? If not, no. The only comment I'll make, I know it's sort of not football, but I know our local Queensland Cricket Club will be having its first female cricket team, I think, in the next couple of weeks. So that's very exciting to hear as well. So, councillors, we do have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour for the recommendation? Thank you. It's so moved. Thank you. Thank you very much, Shannon. Councillors, item 13, local economy, no reports to consider. 14, environmental sustainability, we have no reports to consider. Item 15, Planning and Heritage. 15.1, Planning Permit Activity Report. We welcome Mr. Rajaratnam. Thank you, Johan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, this is your usual monthly report, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with by now. The report is fairly self-explanatory, so I'll take it as read. Just for your own information, in terms of the numbers, current applications has gone up 3 from last month. However, the applications finalised since the last report has also gone up 3, which is pretty much a net zero result. The only other difference since last month was a decision to get a consent order from VCAT in relation to 5 Beach Street. So that's gone from 4 last month to 3 this month. Council, the recommendation is on page 20. Look forward to hearing your resolution.
Mr. Mayor, just quickly, I think Johan might have meant 6 Beach Street.
Apologies. Yes, 6 Beach Street. There's
Don't
many
make it
applications
too
in Beach Street. Exactly.
Thank you. Okay, certainly. So we do have a report there. Can I get someone move that we accept the report? So, Councillor Grad, you're moving, we accept the report? And you're on mute, Councillor Grad. Someone second that?
I will.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Grad. Do we have any questions for Johan? Councillor Grad? Sorry, you're on mute, Councillor Grad. Okay.
So a couple of questions, and through the chair, if you can clarify when we've scheduled the council decision that we need to make on 2021-067, which is 5 Beach Street, Queenscliff. And the second question, if you can clarify what the next steps would be about the Telstra Tower, which is application 2021/18. That's 134 Hesse Street, Queenscliff.
Council, I'll deal with 5 Beach Street first. As most of you would be aware, there was significant feedback in relation to the heritage value of that building and whether the building or whether the proposal to demolish the building was appropriate or not. So officers and council sought further heritage advice in relation to those particular aspects. We're expecting that response back on the 12th of November, and the intention is that we would then circulate that to the applicant as well as the objectors. And the plan is to table the matter for a decision on the 15th of December 2021. If there's no other questions, I'm happy to go on to the next item.
Yep, that's fine. Yep.
With respect to 134, officers are going back to Telstra to find out a little bit more information in relation to co-location activities. There's quite a lot of feedback in relation to what efforts were made to actually co-locate those the antennas that are currently on site and the infrastructure that's currently on site. It is worth noting that the application is still on the notification period, and that's due to end on the 29th of October. It's also worth noting that Marine and Coastal Act consent hasn't been applied for as yet, and council can't consider the application or make a decision on it until that's actually granted. So until a couple of the outstanding issues and conversations I had with Telstra and MACA consent is issued, we won't be able to bring that to council anytime. Anytime within this month anyway. Hopefully, if they respond quickly, the timing will work well enough to get it to the December meeting.
Thanks, Johan.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions for Johan in regards to his report? If not, so that is moved and second. Could I get all those in favour? Thank you, so moved. Councillor Grant, you had a couple of other planning issue items. I just asked that maybe with those, I think there's more than one, we will, in this stage, we will treat them separately at one at a time, if that's all right, Councillor Grant.
You want to move them each separately?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'm going to move that council receive a briefing on the application 2021/084, which is 32 Wharf Street, Queenscliff.
Yep. So you're moving that, Councillor Grant. Can I get someone second that? Councillor Grigau, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you.
I further move that council receive a briefing on application 2021/087, which is 28 Jellybrand Street, Queenscliff.
Thank you. That's moved by Councillor Grant. A seconder for that one, please. Councillor Hewitt, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. So passed.
And I further move that council receive a briefing on 2021/096, which is 33 to 35 Flinders Street, Queenscliff.
So we do have a mover. Can I get someone second that? Councillors? I need a second. Councillor Grigor. So Councillor Hewitt, you declared a conflict, so you will abstain from voting. So Jackie, if you can just record that, please. Thank you. So we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you. Councillor Salter, thank you. And Councillor Hewitt, abstain. Thank you very much, Councillor Grant. Is that you done, Councillor Grant?
On that one?
Yep. Very good.
Yes.
Okay. Item 15.2, Heritage Review Implementation. Again, back to you, Mr. Rajaratnam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Council, the purpose of the report is as stated in the report itself. We are seeking your support in recommending that the Heritage Report or Heritage Action Plan be accepted. Officers' recommendations are to divide the implementation of the Level 10 report into 3 separate phases. The first phase is already underway and is subject to the Minister approving Planning Scheme Amendment C38, and there's detail on what C38 is within the report. The next stage of implementation is what we're calling Stage 2. Officers have recommended that this is broken down further into a Stage 2A, concentrating primarily on Fisherman's Flat. And the aim of this would be to correct errors and or changes that might be required and implement them into the planning scheme as quickly as possible. And further detail on the timing associated with that stage can also be found within the report. The final stage we're recommending is Stage 3 and really relates to capturing new sites within the Borough of Queenscliff. It'll obviously depend on how quickly Stage 2 gets completed and incorporated into the scheme. Obviously, Council, as I've stated already, there's a lot more detail on the staging and the timing within the report, and I'll take that as read. Officer's recommendation is on page 34, and it's recommended that you receive the report. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll get someone to move and second that we receive the report, the work plan. So it's moved by Councillor Grout and seconded by Councillor Grigor. Thank you. Councillor, some questions or statements for Mr. Rajaratnam? Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mr. Rajaratnam. I'm sure that we probably haven't got to the level of detail yet, but do we have any sort of indicative costs and when the ballparks are likely to hit, and have we planned for it in our financial planning for the next year and 2 years? Thanks.
Yes, Council. Council originally in the resolution resolved to put 40,000 aside for the implementation of the works. I'm hoping that the brief will come under that amount. The original Level 10 work cost in the order of 100,000, a little bit more. I don't believe that it'll be as high as that. So depending on the future discussions with Council around the brief and how much consultation we undertake, that'll inform, I guess, the costings that are likely to come through the quotation process. So I guess the short answer to your question, Councillor Hewitt, is that I'm hoping it's under the budgeted allocation, but if not, we'll have a conversation with you about how best to tackle that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Johan. Councillor Graf, you've got a question?
Yeah, a couple of questions. So I'll just take them one at a time, I think, because the first one is about the Avenue of Honour, the Monterey Cypress. So we're proposing protection, the heritage listing for the Monterey Cypress and the Avenue of Honour. And just if you could comment what that means in practice. And what I'm trying to get at here is some understanding if the tree is identified as dead or parts of it are dead or diseased or unsafe to the public, can it still be pruned or removed with this listing?
That's a very good question, Councillor Grad. There are exemptions in the planning scheme that allow us to remove dead or dying limbs if they're a risk to the public. If that timescale isn't immediate, then we have to go through a planning permit application process. However, that'll need to be justified through an arborist report. And if there is that justification, then we can consider an application on that basis. But if it's an immediate risk, then there are exemptions in the scheme to remove them straight away.
My second question, well, thanks for that. The second question goes to the listing of built form. So what type of heritage assets do you envisage will be considered for assessment in the stage 2A step for Fisherman's Flat? Otherwise, can you clarify what the heritage precinct actually protects beyond the current listed 16 buildings?
Sorry, Councillor Grab, are you asking whether we intend to extend the overlay or whether there are other buildings that are currently on site which may warrant protection?
Extending listing within the overlay.
Well, the brief, as we've currently drafted it, is to consider the recommendations of the Lovell Chen study, and we'll be bringing this back to you. My understanding, based on council's feedback, is that you're keen to have this extended beyond just the existing houses, if you like, within the overlay, and we'll have a conversation as to whether this includes buildings and whether they also include backyards, which I think is a line of feedback that's been provided through the assessment of planning permits. All of that will have a cost implication. So the intention of officers is to finalise a brief interpreting what you've provided us through the feedback to date, as well as some of the feedback provided by the community through the numerous applications that have been received. And once there's some satisfaction around the fact that it covers most of the issues, which may include secondary buildings, if you like, then those will be made, those will be investigated by the consultant in order to determine whether heritage overlays need to be expanded beyond individual listings or adjusted based on what the research actually throws up.
Thanks.
Excellent, thank you. So, Mr. Gill, did you have a comment you wanted to make, or Johan covered it? Okay. Councillor Grigor, a question for Johan?
Yes, just asking, I understand as we always do community consultation on all matters. Regarding this with the planning and heritage, would we be using more of our people with local knowledge to help with the plan to improve it and to seek a better outcome instead of using so-called experts that don't have local knowledge?
Any amendment which we put up to the minister will need to be substantiated based on expert knowledge. So whilst the short answer to that question is yes, we're keen to get the feedback from the community and have their views articulated, the threshold for getting things in the scheme will often depend on the expertise and the rationale that's been provided by the people we're hoping to appoint as part of this process. So Councillor Grigor, I don't know whether that answers your question, but the aim would be to provide as many opportunities for the community, especially within Fisherman's Flat, to critique our work and outline any errors that they perceive and address those prior to getting to the stage of actually drafting an amendment, which will then go to the minister for authorisation. What's critical for me personally is that we correct those as quickly as possible. So we'll need to be, I guess, clear in terms of how many times we can go through that iteration and correction process in order to expedite how quickly the actual controls get into the planning scheme itself. And that, to me, is the end goal, try to get the corrections as quickly as possible in an accurate form as possible. So I don't know whether that answers your question, Councillor Grigor, but the aim would be that we will actually fairly intensively engage with the community to ensure that their feedback's incorporated into all stages of the amendment process.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Grigor. And I probably agree with you, Councillor Grigor. We do have a wealth of knowledge in those residents who reside in the Fisherman's Flat. So I think it's really important that we use that knowledge to help that process as well. Councillors, any other?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, can I'd like to say a few words in moving this motion, if that's appropriate.
Certainly.
Because I'm really pleased to see this work plan and the timeline which goes to achieving our heritage planning and infrastructure priority number one in this council's 4-year plan, which we're going to look at shortly. And that is to improve planning controls to protect built form heritage values within the Borough of Queenscliff. So we just foreshadowed, I think, that that's in the plan that we'll be looking at later. So I'm really pleased to move this motion.
Well said, Councillor. If there's no further discussion, we have moved and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. Excellent. A little bit of work to do, Johan. How?
I do, Mr. Chair, I do.
Yeah. Now, councillors, we're moving on to item 15.3, the Avenue of Honour Reference Group, and I'll just move back to the start of the meeting. Councillor Hewitt did declare a conflict of interest. So we may, Connor, if it's okay with you, we may just move Councillor Hewitt out of the room, and if you could just provide her with some nice background music, that'd be great. And then Councillor Hewitt, we will bring you back. Oh, she's gone already. So councillors, item 15.3, Avenue of Honour Reference Group. We're over to you again, Mr. Rajaratnam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Council, the purpose of this report, as it's stated there, is to seek your support to dissolve the Avenue of Honour Community Reference Group. The reference group was set up in 2017, as stated in the report, and its purpose was to assess and analyse community feedback and identify and recommend a tree replacement strategy for approval by council. In 2019, council made the decision to use Monterey cypress as a replacement species for the Avenue of Honour in line with the recommendations of the reference group. In light of this, officers believe that the role of the reference group has now ended and is recommending that we thank them and resolve to formally dissolve the group. Since that time, it's worth mentioning that officers have also removed a number of trees as a result of either arboreal assessments or poor health or storm damage. But these have been replaced by Monterey cypress wherever possible. As a result, the resolution seeks to formalise the use of Monterey cypress as a replacement species. There are a number of other recommendations outlined in the report for your review, Council. I won't go through them, but I hope they're fairly self-evident. They're on page 41, and I commend the recommendation to you. I'm happy to take any questions you might have in relation to it.
Thank you, Mr. Rajaratnam. Councillors, there is a recommendation there. Can I get someone? Yep, Councillor Grout.
Yeah, I'd like to move it, but and I'll move it as per the recommendation, but with a change to number 5 in that recommendation.
Okay, so the change to number 5 to read as?
So rather than what is written there, if we can replace that with request that officers prepare and present a report to council that outlines a framework for assessing the outcome of the replacement planting trial that finishes in 2024 and an ongoing program for monitoring tree health in the Avenue of Honour.
Thank you, Councillor Grout. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Second by Councillor Salter. Thank you. Do we have some discussion? Councillor Griot, you've got your hand up.
Yes, excuse me, Mr. Rajaratnam. Just be like a clarification. So is this what we're doing, a trial on the Monterey cypress as that was publicised in advertising by the previous council?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The resolution that council passed didn't actually refer to a trial, but certainly in some members of the community's mind, it is a bit of a trial of the use of Monterey cypress. So the intention would be to come back to you with an assessment of the success or otherwise of the planting of the Monterey cypress so that council can form a view as to whether we continue to replace trees with Monterey cypress or take some other course of action.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Rajaratnam? No.
I'd like to speak for the to the motion, Mr. Mayor, if I may, because in moving this, I do want to emphasise council's appreciation of the work and the commitment of the Avenue of Honour Community Reference Group. Our Avenue of Honour has been subject to a number of reviews and working parties that I'm aware of in the last 30 years, and this group did well to land on confirmation of the species for our avenue. as well as recommend ongoing maintenance. Now, we've begun a planting and maintenance plan, and we will develop the conservation plan with community input. If we follow a robust maintenance and replacement plan, these trees should enjoy better health and so continue to provide a distinctive gateway to Queenscliff Township, as well as this living memorial to servicemen and women. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Grout. I've just got a quick, Councillor Salter, a question or statement?
So I would like to, as the chair of this committee, I would like to thank all the reference group members. It has been a very fraught group. You know, people came here with very strongly held vision of what they wanted. And I think it actually reflects how strongly the community holds the Avenue of Honour. And I would really like to congratulate them on their time and effort. It would be fantastic to see this continue. There are not that many avenues of honour that continue in the state of Victoria. I think there's only 39. And everywhere I go around the state of Victoria, I actually constantly run into people who talk about hours, because of course hours you come in under the trees and they find it a very spiritual experience. So I wish our trees and our citizens well for the next 100 years. And I'm sure we will have as many interesting arguments over trees in the Avenue of Honour in that 100 years, but I hope it keeps going. It's a fantastic memorial to all the soldiers, and it's a fantastic memorial to all the citizens of the Borough of Queenscliff.
Thank you, Councillor Salter. Mr. Redrow, can I just ask, I know we do an annual health check of our trees as well. Would these trees in the avenue be part of that health check as well?
If I'm still on mute, Mr. Chair, yes, it would. The intention would be to extend that to the entire avenue to make sure we capture all of the trees over time, because as you know, some of the trees are already in senescence, so we need to manage it from a risk management perspective, not even a arborist sort of arboreal and heritage perspective. So the intention is to do that on a 12-monthly basis, and we also need to expand that to include tests for canker on site.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Any further questions or statements in regard to the Avenue of Honour? If not, that has been moved by Councillor Grout and Councillor Salter. All those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rajaratnam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Connor, we can bring Councillor Hewitt back in the room. Councillor Hewitt, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks.
Welcome back. That's all right. Councillor, so we'll keep moving. Item 16, Governance and Performance, the quarterly report of 1 July to 30 September 2021. Mr. CEO, handing over to you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, just as a start, I just need to alert the councillors to just an error on page 47 of our agenda under community wellbeing. It states there that we provide some money to the Point Lonsdale Ball Riders Club of $500. As the community would know, we don't have a ball riders club, we have a board riders club. And the amount there was for $5,000. So on page 46 then, under the executive summary, that's the last dot point there. We need to adjust that figure, so we'll tidy that up as well.
So the allocations would actually be 8,500.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yep. The only other comments I'd make generally are, as the councillors see, we're off and running in this financial year, and we've been getting through a significant amount of work, completing some work that flowed on from the last financial year, and that's been very pleasing to get that finished in the first quarter. There's been some items that are being considered tonight that have been completed through this quarter, and not the least the annual report, which is a very impressive document, and really sums up the way we've been travelling through the last financial year, and also obviously the work that we've done on both the financial plan and the council plan. So that, coupled with some great infrastructure outcomes, our continued good work around the community care and the work we're doing around pedestrian safety, and of course the work that a lot of work that the planners are doing at the moment. So it's very busy in our planning world at the moment. So I'll take that the report is read, and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Okay, so with that change, councillors, can I get someone to move that report for the under governance? Yep, move Councillor Salter. A seconder for that report. Councillor Hewitt, thank you. Councillor Salter, would you like to speak to the motion?
I would indeed. If you were in the Borough of Queenscliff in 2021, your head would be spinning by the amount of activity that has been going on. And this from me, who's been rather confined to home barracks. I mean, if you start down the bottom end of Hesse Street with all the work going on with the launching boats and the new wombat crossings that are all around the place, which has been fantastic for slowing down traffic, and then all the work that's been going on in King Street and around in Flinders Street, it is truly remarkable about what's going on around the place. So well done to all the engineering team, let alone all the planning team, let alone all the care team who are dropping in on all the elderly people around the place. So from where I sit, this has been the year of staff who, you know, not notably should have been at home, have been out there doing so much work. So well done to Martin and his team, because the entire community is noticing your efforts.
Thank you, Councillor Salter, and well said. Councillors, any other comments or questions for the CEO? Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to echo what Councillor Salter said. It's been a terrific year, my first year, obviously, but I'm still very much just overwhelmed by the workload that the council officers have. And Councillor Salter mentioned a couple of key areas in which the council officers have, kicked some absolute goals. Another one of those is obviously my portfolio and the environment portfolio. And not only did we get the SERP adopted, but we've made such great work towards the implementation plan, and the collaboration with the community is phenomenal, continues to be phenomenal, even so much so today it's been announced that the Borough of Queenscliff is a finalist in the 2021 City Powers Partnership Climate Awards for collaboration, with the results to be announced on the 17th of November. So not only is that us recognising them, but we're being recognised on such a great stage, and to even be considered as part of that pack is truly phenomenal. So congratulations to everyone involved. Yeah, phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Grigor.
I'd like to comment and say thank you to Martin and his team for their work for this quarter and in these trying times of under the COVID restrictions of the staff having to work from home or restricted hours, and also, having recently the exposure sites and how we've dealt with them very professionally, and keeping the calmness within our community to look after one another. The next quarter, with the opening and easing restrictions, is going to probably cause us a bit more concerns with more outbreaks, and we'll have to manage that. So I think we all have to consider that we need to give a bit of leeway and think about the staff and how we're going to see out through the summer months.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Grigor. And just touching on the COVID, it's been talking to a lot of the traders and people in the street there. The addition of our temporary COVID officer has certainly been a real bonus, and just having that, like you said, Councillor Gruger, having that presence on the street certainly sort of just help businesses cope and know what to do, and they've got a contact straight away if they need to as well, which has been great. Councillors, any other questions or comments in regard to the quarterly report? If not, that's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Thank you. Item 16.2, the quarterly financial report as of 30th September 2021. We welcome Gihan to the stage. Thanks, Gihan. Lovely to see you again.
Mr. Mayor. Councillors, if I provide a brief update on the financial performance for the first quarter. So we forecast a cash surplus of 91,000 for this financial year, though we have seen an increase of 344,000 in accumulated cash surplus that we brought forward from the previous financial year. The part of the additional surplus have been used to fund additional budget allocation listed on the page 53 of the agenda. So as a result, we forecast a 91,000 surplus for the year. But the most important, the result is the underlying results. So as again stated on the agenda item, now we look at adjusted underlying result as per our council plan measures. So it's going to be a break-even results with a modest 39,000 surplus. And again, we expect the settlement of the Murray Road land sale to take place very soon, and the proceed from the sale will be set aside in a reserve account until we identify any investment opportunities. During the last 3 months, we have spent almost 1 million on capital projects against the total forecast for the year of 11.9 million. We have a 12 million budget to deliver for in this financial year, and out of that 12 million, almost like 8.5 million is Q Hub and the boat ramp upgrade project. And again, we don't have any debt, so we continue to have a debt-free balance sheet. And again, councillors, as the variant explanation for key variances provided at the Appendix 3. In summary, the forecasted year-end result meets all financial sustainability indicators specified in the council plan as stated on the page 54 of the agenda. So this recommendation before you tonight, councillors, is set out on page 52.
Thank you very much, Gihan. Councillors, the recommendation is there before you. Can someone move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Salter, second by Councillor Gruger. Thank you. Any questions for Gihan? Councillor Gruger.
Just like to thank Gihan for his work in the team. It's great, and it's nice to see. Would we be forecasting any changes if we had the Auditor General look at our books to record a deficit?
If I answer through the chair, Councillor Gregor, the Auditor General has already completed the audit for the previous financial year. So as a result of the audit, there has not been any adjustment proposed by the Auditor General. So there has not been any change to the financial performance that we finalized for the last financial year.
That's excellent. I'm glad we don't follow the lead of our neighbours.
Thank you, Councillor Gruger, for that commentary. Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Gihan. Love your work as always. I just wanted to reconfirm the discussion we had just in relation to the Q Hub and the continuation of additional funding, or the use of the contingency and now additional funding. So the question is just the reconfirmation at the meeting tonight about how much further funding we anticipate, and what checks or processes we're going to put in place to try and stem any future costs. I know there's been an overrun as a result of COVID-related delays and a few other unforeseen variations, but it would be good just to get the confirmation around future liabilities for the site.
Thanks. Or Martin, did you want to comment? Or
I'm happy to take this one, and Johan might jump in if I get the figures wrong. But we're anticipating an additional $57,000 worth of variations, and the process that Johan and I will put in place is that each of those will be assessed before we release the funds. We're not anticipating further variations at this point in time. 95% of the materials for the building have been purchased, and we've already received what we see as some variations potentially for the consultants, given that they've had additional time. So that's all been factored in, and hopefully that'll be the end of the overruns.
Great, thank you. Mr. Mayor, I've got a second question, if I may. That was great that we've taken all action on the seawall at Point Lonsdale, and it's terrific that that is being funded through the state government. I just wanted to ask about whether we'll be looking at a longer term solution. I know there's the community proposal for groins as an alternative for our longer term solution, particularly as we're going to be subject to more storm surges and more frequent weather, significant weather events, and whether we are going to be engaging in conversations with DELP about what we can do in the future and their current position on that. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and it's a good question, not an easy one to answer. In the short term, we are joining some of those community representatives to speak to DELP about their decision on the groins. And in that meeting, we're anticipating that we will have a discussion about whether or not they're going to continue to pursue or investigate those options. And if not, just get some clarity around the work they've referred to in their response, which is some additional studies, wave motions, and also some further clarity around how now that the coastal strategy is in a position where they're starting to implement the policy, how that's going to impact on how they want to manage, in particular, the Lonsdale Bight around to the Dog Beach. So there's a number of questions that we want to ask, and you're right that we need to get it clear in our own minds what the strategy is. At the moment, they're saying that the policy is calling for minimal intervention. And what we think they mean by that is no new works, but the maintenance of existing works that are there, so the rock walls and the sea walls and things like that.
thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Any other questions for Gihan? My only one is, obviously this is a report about the quarter just gone, but do we see any requirement for any loans moving forward?
Mr. Mayor, even in our financial plan, we have not identified any requirement for us to go for any new borrowings, provided we work within those parameters that we have identified in the financial plan. So my simple, the quick answer, no, we haven't. There won't be requirement for us to go for any borrowing if we manage our operation within those parameters.
Excellent. Thanks, Gihan. Councillors, any further questions or comments? If not, we do have that moved and seconded. All those in favour of the recommendation? So moved. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gihan, as always. Councillor 16.3, Borough of Queenscliff annual report. We'll welcome live to the screen our communications coordinator, Connor Parker. Thanks, Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's always nice when you let me out from the blackness occasionally as I manage these meetings. Councillors, I am delighted to present the latest edition of your favourite annual serial from the Borough of Queenscliff, the annual report. Certainly there's already been some discussion this evening of some of the achievements in the last quarter and the last year, but I think with around about 6 months of the last financial year spent in and out of lockdowns. I think it's a pretty extraordinary document in the way it talks about the things council's been able to achieve, as well as being frank and fearless in some of the challenges and disappointments of the past financial year. And there are some real successes in there. Our aged care team being able to continue to deliver a 0-day waiting list, as well as some of the infrastructure improvements made by our engineering team are really exciting. But instead of going through the several hundred-page document in detail with you, there are just two things that I would like to point out to you. Firstly, we have started a tradition in the past couple of years of using the chapter opening pages to feature some aspect of our community in particular. And this year's annual report features some of our really wonderful local traders here in the borough. We know that the last financial year has been really tough for some of our traders, and we are fortunate here at council to have an economic development team that works really closely and really well with those businesses, and they've come up with some really creative and vibrant solutions to keep those small businesses going throughout what has been a really challenging year. And we've had the opportunity to feature some of those traders in those chapter openings, and they talk about some of the work they've done. So certainly thank you to those local traders who've let us give them a bit of a shout out in our annual report. It's nice to be able to feature some local businesses. Secondly, this annual report really does give us the opportunity to highlight the work that a lot of staff do. But I do want to be a little bit selfish and recognise a member of my own team, and that is Matt Gibbs, our communications officer. And the reason I want to give him a bit of a shout out is that as part of his professional development, Matt has been taking on a range of additional responsibilities. And this year he has largely been responsible for producing this report by himself. So a lot of the content that he's helped pull together obviously is written by staff, but he's done an outstanding job of coordinating it, of working with the graphic designer, of pulling together all the different components that come from different parts of council to assemble this annual report. So I really do want to recognise the outstanding work that Matt has done in producing this wonderful document. As I mentioned recently in an assembly, we have won another gold award for last year's annual report. I think this one looks particularly good. We will be entering it again, so we will be shooting for an 8th gold award. Councillors, I'm very pleased to present this annual report to you.
So no pressure for Matt Gibbs at all, Connor?
No, none at all. But if he doesn't get it, I will be having words.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Connor. Councillors, there is a recommendation that we endorse the 2021 Borough of Queensland annual report. Can I get someone move the report? Recommendation, move Councillor Salter, seconded Councillor Hewitt. Thank you. Councillors, would anyone like to speak to the recommendation? Councillor Salter, you need to come off mute.
So the annual reports end up being the combined reflection of the entire team's efforts over a year. And it is a remarkable effort to pull it all together and often take fabulous photos of different staff members doing different things, as well as all the financials, as well as all the different programs. And to realise, you know, in this tiny little borough, all the amazing things we do, which makes us kick goals well above our weight. And then, I mean, I've been in Sydney a number of times where we've been picking up the gold awards, and it's always extraordinary because, you know, you have these huge cities like Wellington in New Zealand and Brisbane who always want to come and have a look at our reports. And they go, oh, this is fantastic, this is fantastic. And I go, you know, you're a city of millions of people and we've picked up gold awards. And they look at the set out and the financials and the photos, and they always want to take a copy away. Rarely do I let them. And happy to sell it. And it is extraordinary to see across Australia how many people think our work is fantastic. So that is so much to the credit of Connor and the whole team. but you should realise that, you know, here in the South Pacific, the Borough of Queenscliff Award stands up really highly. So well done to you all.
Well said, Councillor Salter. Councillors, any other questions or comments? Councillor Grant?
Yeah, I'll just commend you for this. I think it's a great testament to your work. It's comprehensive. I find it quite interesting. I was particularly interested in the bit about myself. It sounds a bit egotistical, doesn't it? But you must have got this from LinkedIn or something. I don't remember writing this down. So, but no, I think this is quite comprehensive. It'll take a fair bit of time going through, and it's got all the information about what we've been doing in the last year. So encourage our community to have a look at this. Well done, your team, Connor, for putting it together.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Maybe not egotistical, but bold and assertive. You know?
Councillor Hewitt.
Yeah, just echoing obviously what Councillor Grant and Councillor Salter have said. I just love the imagery, the way that you've set it out, the language that you use. It's really easy to understand, yet it's captures everything. And if I was judging, you'd be getting the award, you and Matt, Connor. So it's just terrific. And again, similarly with the quarterly report, I just can't actually fathom how much you guys get through. So it not only is the production a real credit to the borough, but all the achievements are as well. So very impressed. So thank you to everyone for your contributions.
Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Sorry, Connor, I've just got a couple of quick ones. One I was just going to do, I know the CEO mentioned earlier about some new staff members joining us, and so I've just let people know on page 42 there is quite a good diagram there, which flowchart showing the new organisational structure of the Borough of Queenscliff. And also just a question, Connor, for page 50, and I know it's a gold report, and I'm sure this won't change anything, but I was just wondering on page 50 in regard to, it does talk about lost days due to work-related incidents, the chart, and then the next chart says lost days due to work-related incidents with the same date. So I'm a bit not too sure whether we need some clarification on that or whether I'm just simply misreading it.
I think you're having a school teacher moment.
Yes, Ms. Salter.
I can certainly check on that one with that.
So, sorry, Mr. CEO.
I must apologise to Connor because I didn't get a chance to contact him this afternoon regarding that. So he mightn't have it in front of him.
Yeah,
that's right. I can certainly check in on that one with our HR team and with Martin after tonight's meeting. Yeah.
So we do have a recommendation. I guess it's just if it does need updating, we can update those figures. That'd be great. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. But it's still a gold report, Connor. It's okay. So, councillors, if there's no further questions, the recommendation has been moved and seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. It's moved. Thank you very much. Item 16.4, review of council policies. We'll welcome back Gihan. Thanks, Gihan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take the report as having been read. I would like to make a few comments about the proposed policy for procurement. This is a requirement of the new Local Government Act 2020. Then the councillors, this proposed policy is not only complies with all requirements mentioned in the Act, but it also includes some best practices in place in the wider public sector, such as a supplier code of conduct, identifying procurement performance indicators, and then having a process in place to report against those performance indicators, and so on. So officers believe that this proposed policy will further complement and bring more vigor to the strong governance process the council has around this most important activity, the procurement activities of the council. Councillors, the recommendation is set out on page 62 of the agenda.
Thank you very much, Gihan. Councillors, do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Solder is moved, seconded Councillor Grout. Do we have any questions, or Councillor Solder, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I do, because I mean this has been my area for some time, and a number, especially procurement, has been something that we have been discussing for quite a lot of that time. And, you know, the issue of buying locally, looking at who you're buying from, talking to the Audit and Risk Committee, and having a fraud control officer, all of those things are things that we have been working towards for a number of years. And of course, one of the things that is a great advantage for us, aside from the fact we have Gihan, who is just brought a new clarity to all of these, is that very few incidents cause us to be having a serious discussion in the CEO's office, let alone having to have police or visitations to the Magistrates Court. So well done to Guillaume and his staff, because, you know, tidying all this stuff up means really in the end we look so tight, but also it is such time-saving work in the end. Well done, just extraordinarily well done. But it also looks after our greater community, because, you know, we do actually work quite hard to employ our local community.
Thank you, Councillor Salter. Councillor Hewitt, you've put your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Gihan. I just had just a question in relation to the procurement policy, and in relation to the assessment of products against the environmental sustainability criteria. Obviously, off the back of CERT, we're looking at carbon emissions for our community, carbon emissions for our council, procurement of renewable energy, and so maybe scope 1, scope 2. So hot topics sort of in a lot of organisations now is the scope 3 emissions, so the emissions that result from products, the generation of products in which we purchase. So I was just wanting to know, sort of just for understanding how we actually apply those criteria in practice, and what weight do we give them in terms of our overall assessment of a proposed supplier of products. And I know that's probably quite a detailed question, so if it has to be taken on notice, that's fine. But it's just sort of wanting to get that flavour about, I know that it wasn't actually an action item within the CERT yet. It contributes to our overall reduction as a council, so I'd be keen to understand how that's being explored. Thanks.
I'm happy to take this, Gihan, if you like, and I think, Councillor Hewitt, we will take some of it on notice, but I think what we have also done in parallel to this procurement policy is as we've mentioned before, we've put together a project management framework, and the processes that support that around decision making that the officers now need to go through. And what we're doing in that process is linking back into the outcomes that we want to achieve in the CERT, so that we, when we're preparing briefs, for instance, for projects, or when we're starting to think about assessing how we might construct, or that we're starting to bring those sustainability questions back into the conversation. But we're starting a journey, so I think it would be only fair to say that. Taking your question on notice, we would also go back and just review to make sure that we've covered off, as you say, you know, scope 3 and some of the more detail around achieving best practice. So we'll do that, but it is something through a number of our policies that we're starting to shift towards. Gihan and I, for instance, talking about the purchase of council cars policy. We've got to review that in light of the SERP, and we're doing that at the moment as well. So yeah.
That's terrific. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say you don't need to come back on that question. It's enough that you're confirming that you're starting that process. So I look forward to sort of being updated sort of as you go through, and really appreciate you focusing on it. You obviously have got a lot of focus already with specific actions in the SERP, so I appreciate you trying to tackle this as well. Thanks. Thanks,
Councillor Hewitt. And Mr. C, probably in line with the same thing as in regard to with the new Local Government Act, that we need to have a, environmental sustainability camera over everything we do as well. All reports now that we do actually have that focus under the Local Government Act also.
Yeah, certainly, as you would have seen when we changed the council report templates last year following the 2020 Act implementation, we have started to put a bit more of emphasis on that. And again, that's a work in progress in terms of how we, I think it's easy to report on it, but how we use it to inform decisions is the next sort of maturity, a level of maturity that we need to get towards. So we're doing that.
Excellent, thank you. Councillors, any more questions? Councillor Salter?
I do think that the very fine question that Councillor Hewitt has posed should possibly be sent to Prime Minister Scott Morrison so he can contemplate it as he sits on the plane on the way to Glasgow, because it might well make him think more carefully.
Thank you for your commentary, Councillor Salter.
It's an excellent question.
Councillors, do we have any more questions of Gihan? If not, we do have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. So moved. Thank you. Thank you, as always, Guillaume. Councillors, item 16.5, the review of governance rules. I'll hand over to our CEO, Mr. Gill. Thank you, Martin. So you're on mute, Martin.
Apologies for that, Mr. Mayor.
No, that's quite all right. You may not have heard that we're starting a fine system, and we might start with you if people don't come off mute.
Yes, I'm happy to hear the example there. So we just wanted to, as you know, we've gone through a process to update the governance rules very early in your tenure as a new council. And with the, we were conscious that the mayor elections were coming up. So we just went through and had a look at the governance rules, and we worked out that we probably needed to update our rules to reflect the recommendations that are coming out of the Act. So this is a small change to our existing governance rules and it's set out on page 69 in terms of what the changes are, but it's really about correcting some of the references and making sure that we have rules that are in accordance with the Act when it comes to the process to elect the mayor. So I'll be happy to take some questions on that.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Firstly, there is a recommendation. Can I get someone to move the recommendation? Councillor Hewitt, seconded by Councillor Grout. Thank you. Any questions or comments for the CEO? No. Excellent. You're off the hook, Mr. CEO. I will put it to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. That's so moved. Thank you very much. Item 16.6. Seems like this item's been coming for a long time, particularly for our new councillors. The Council Plan 2021 to 2025. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to take up too much of your time because the councillors are very familiar with this project and with the document, except to say I wanted to commend the work that the councillors have done in preparing this document and the support they've given the staff, the feedback and the questions and the way they've worked with us and with the community to make sure they get a document that reflects very closely to the vision work that the community's done, but also it reflects the the context in which we sit, so the resources we have and the capacity we have. And it's a very grounded document, but it's thankfully, it's also ambitious for those concerns that our community holds around heritage, environment, climate change, urban character, all those touch point issues that emerge through conversations and through consultation, all captured in this plan. So I'm really pleased to be able to present this plan to you. I think it's achievable, and I'm looking forward to working with you to implement it over the next 3 years.
Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. Councillor, there is a recommendation there that the Council adopt the Borough of Queensland Council Plan 2021 to 2025. Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Move Councillor Hewitt, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Salter, thank you. Councillor Hewitt, would you like to speak to your recommendation?
Yes, I'd just like to say thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. CEO. I'd just like to thank again, as we did when we moved that the council plan, the draft council plan, go out for public submissions. I'd just like to thank everyone who was involved, through those who responded to the surveys, who were part of our community panel, the community organisations, that Mr. CEO and all the council officers and ConUp in particular as well. It's a massive process putting it together. Lots of umming and ahhing about what to include, what not to include, the level of detail. Obviously, each year there'll be an annual plan that will set out more specifically the detail that some of the submitters were actually looking for in terms of the timing, the funding sources and responsibility for particular actions. We've noted some as intended actions, but obviously those concepts need to be further developed each year as we go through. I'm really excited. I feel like it is quite balanced. I feel like we are trying to hit a lot of the key issues within our community. I'm very pleased that Mr. CEO and obviously Gehan have both said that, yes, it's achievable from an operational and financial perspective. So that gives us great comfort. So thank you for looking at it through those lenses, because that's really important. Obviously, we can give you the biggest wish list possible, but yeah, we do want to be able to get things done and to make things happen for the community. So I'm really excited about the foundation that this lays for the future, and I very much look forward to working with everyone to try and achieve it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Grout.
Yeah, I'll echo those comments from Councillor Hewitt. So I particularly wanted to thank the community workshop participants for setting us some expectations for this 4-year plan. We have attempted to incorporate the main themes, if not all the actions that were suggested to us. But we've really tried to link this plan in with the previous one. We're keen to be meeting the legislative requirements and then deliver something that's appropriate and achievable for our community. So I'd also like to thank the fellow councillors for collaborating and producing this, and Mr. CEO, your contribution, keeping us all honest, I think.
Thank you, Councillor Grout. Councillor Salter.
I would like to congratulate all the councillors who put this together, because aside from Ross and me, all the new councillors, this was the first time they'd had a go at this. It's very hard because our community is very engaged, and the community has lots of different ideas and diverse requests. And to juggle it and do community group meetings and just to try and bring it all together is an enormous challenge. And so my heartiest congratulations to all the new councillors who've had to work their way through this. And of course, congratulations to Ross, who's had to chair a fair bit of this, because wrangling it is really hard. Very great congratulations to Martin and all the staff team, because it's not just the finance, it's all the ideas. And, do you want to do this or that? And bring together a whole community. And as we've all been commenting this winter, the community this year, or in fact in the past 18 months, has changed enormously. The demographics have changed, and the community's changed because COVID has meant that lots of people haven't been able to be here. So for all the people who've been involved, an enormous pat on the back. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Salter. Councillor Grigor?
Just to the CEO, I'd like to say it looks like it is a very ambitious document to set out for the council plan for the next 4 years. And just to clarify, to just reconfirm that your team can deliver it. And if there's any distractions or deviations to it, would you be strong enough to advise fellow councillors that you won't be able to deliver it if you have distractions?
It's a good question, Councillor Grigor, and I think the councillors can expect that that we'll try and make sure that we continue to engage with you so that our focus is on delivering the council plan and that we don't get distracted. I think it's always a concern when you've got elections coming up that some of the ideas that may be put on the table that don't necessarily link to the council plan. So we need to be strong in our advocacy around that. And I need to make sure that the staff understand the importance of delivering and meeting the expectations both of yourselves and the community. And I think we can do that, but I will make a commitment that if I think we're not going to get there or we are getting distracted, I'll come to you straight away and speak to you about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. I'd just like to echo all the councillors' comments, in particular the community input. Obviously, at the end of the day, we're here to represent the community, and we have certainly listened to our community. I think with this council plan, we've tried to be quite realistic in our ambitions and realise, we don't want to overpromise. We'd rather over-deliver than not. And also just wanted to comment, Mr. CEO, the way Connor was able to, I hate to use the word pivot and etc., but the consultation, moving it from in-person, starting in-person, then into online and back and forth several times. It was a job well done to Connor, because it's not an easy thing to do public consultation online. And I think with Connor and obviously with the help with Jen Lindben,
yep,
they did an amazing job and captured all the comments and thoughts from our community in a great way, which obviously at the end of the day makes our job a little bit easier. It's always good fun sitting around the table trying to work out what's in, what's out, and seeing the CEO and the staff sort of banging their head against the wall saying, no, we don't want that one. But it's been a great process, and it's something I think us as councillors are very proud of, and congratulations again to everyone else concerned also. Well done.
Thank you, Mr.
Mayor. So we do have a mover and a seconder for the council plan. If there's no further discussion, we'll put that to the motion. All those in favour? So moved. Thank you, and well done, councillors. Item 16.7, Financial Plan 2021 to 2031. Gihan, you've been very ambitious having a financial plan for the next 10 years. We're in your hands.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, again. I'll take this as read, but again, I'll add a few comments in relation to the public submission. During the public submission period, majority of the submissions received were in relation to council plan, but we were able to identify 3 submissions that related to the draft financial plan. However, none of those submissions required any changes to be made. Our council responses to those submissions are included at the Appendix 7A. This is a plan for next 10 years, councillors, but having said that, we will revisit this plan every year as a part of our budget process. So at that time, we will revisit our priorities and we'll make the required adjustment. So this plan tells us and confirms if we work within the parameters, assumptions that we have identified in our plan, then the council will be able to deliver the priorities that we have identified in our council plan in line with our community vision. At the same time, ensuring the financial sustainability of our operation. So that's what we really see in this financial plan. Again, as summarized on page 79 and 80 of the agenda. So this financial plan satisfies all financial sustainability indicators specified in the council plan throughout this 10-year planning horizon. The recommendation is councillors is on page 77.
Thank you very much, Gihan. Councillors, we have a recommendation there. Can I get someone move the recommendation? So moved by Councillor Grigal, seconder, Councillor Salter. Any comments or questions for Gihan? No, if not, I'm just sorry, Gihan, just one. I think this is and Mr. Sear, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time we've had to do a 10-year plan. This is part of the new Local Government Act, or did we do it last year?
If I answer that, Mr. Mayor, we have been having a long-term financial plan. So we have been having the 10-year plan, but it wasn't really a requirement of the act, the previous act, but still we have been having. But now this time we have gone through a more rigorous, comprehensive process to develop this financial plan. And again, taking into consideration our council plan, community vision, and so on, because this is a part of this integrated planning and reporting process stipulated in the new act. So that means all of those elements needs to be properly integrated. So that's the way we have looked at this financial plan.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, any further questions for Gihan? No, if not, oh, sorry, Councillor Grant, you just snuck in.
Yeah, I just one question, I think, about borrowings. If you could just confirm what our anticipated borrowings will be in this 10-year cycle.
If I answer through the chair, Councillor Grout, it's zero. The answer is zero. So we have not planned for any borrowing in the financial plan. So it does not mean that we will not look at the opportunities to borrow money if we can identify project where that borrowed money would best suits. But what the plan tells us, we don't have to borrow money if we work within those parameters. But if there's a investment opportunity where we think we can have some additional income streams generated, then it may be a justification. But again, to manage our operation and to achieve priorities that we have identified in our council plan, at this point in time, we don't feel that we need to go for borrowing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gihan.
Hard to make an argument for going for borrowings in 10 years' time. Yeah.
Thank you. So, councillors, there's no further questions for Gihan. I will move. We have a mover and a seconder. Can I get someone? We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Thank you. Thank you, Gihan, again. Councillors, we move to item 17, authorisation of signing and sealing of document 17.5 S5 instrument of delegations to the Chief Executive Officer. At the ordinary meeting of Council held on the 22nd of September 2021, Council resolved to adopt the Section 5 instrument of delegation to the Chief Executive Officer. Council applied the common seal to the above document on the 14th of October 2021. Council, their recommendation that the Council note the use of the common seal. Can I get someone move that? Move Councillor Hewitt, seconded Councillor Grout. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 17.2 S6 instrument of delegation to members of staff. Again, at the ordinary meeting of Council held on the 22nd of September 2021, Council resolved to adopt the Section 6 instrument of delegation to members of staff. Council applied the common seal to the above document again on the 14th of October 2021. The recommendation, councillors, that the Council note the use of the common seal. Can I get someone move That moved Councillor Songder, seconded Councillor Hewitt. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 18, questions without notice. 18.1, questions without notice status update. No questions without notice outstanding. 18.2, questions without notice. Councillors, do we have any questions without notice? No, thank you. We'll move on. Item 19, list of council meetings. As you can see there, planning review meeting, which will be on the 10th of November 2021. And that's in regard to planning permit 2021-048 for 200 to 204 Point Lonsdale Road, Point Lonsdale. And I'm pleased to say that that will be in the town hall live. So we're looking forward to welcoming people back to the town hall. And then our ordinary council meeting, which will be on Wednesday, the 24th of November, will also be in the town hall. So we do welcome people back to the gallery. It'll be just nice to have people around us again. So thank you, everyone. Item 20, closed session of the meeting, recommendation that in accordance with section 66(1) and 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act, the meeting be closed to members of the public for the consideration of the following confidential minutes. 20.1, confirmation of 22nd September 2021 confidential council minutes. Can I get someone move that recommendation? That moved Councillor Hewitt, seconded Councillor Salter. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. We will just wait and Connor will